Okay, welcome, sisters. Thank you so much for being here for another interview around the deep journeys that women and humans, but in this case, women, go on that get them to their tattoos or that their tattoos bring them to. And this is ultimately an exploration of living outside of societal shoulds and norms and like a journey of the more deeply we are ourselves and we are expressed in our bodies, whatever that looks like, however we want to adorn ourselves, that we are more magnetic and more powerful the more in alignment we are. So I'm delighted to have some of these like near dear sisters with me today. And we're going to dive in without any further ado. So I'm going to actually call on each of you ladies to introduce yourselves, and then we'll go a little bit deeper into your stories after we do introductions. So Ariel Brown, I'd like to go ahead and call on you, sister. Anything you want to say to the women who might be watching about what you are creating in the world and about yourself?
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Ariel, and I've been a relationship and intimacy coach for women, men, and couples for the past 6 years. And the focus of my work right now is actually running co-ed intimacy groups for men and women around how do we remove the barriers to connection and really invite out our desires, our boundaries, and intimacy in a way that creates more connections so we can have more of the relationships that we really want. Um, because intimacy and connection is a really beautiful thing.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ariel. And Ariel and I, we go way back, man. We've met, I don't know, maybe like 5 or 6 or more years ago. And I'm always really inspired by just witnessing your evolution and moving from like barely knowing each other to colleagues to friends.
Mm.
So I love all the hats that we've worn with each other. So welcome, Ariel. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me here.
Rihanna, let's go ahead and have you unmute yourself and introduce the work you do in the world.
Well, I also work with intimacy, but in a slightly different way. I like to work with the intimacy between humans and the plant world, and especially women in the plant world. Um, I'm a Gemini, and so I like to think of kind of two sides of myself, and there's two sides of my work. On the one hand, I do a lot of work helping women own their reproduction, their sexuality, and regain their energy, move through postpartum, move through fertility issues, really having optimum health and wellness in the realm of our hormonal life. And that's a big part of what I do as an herbalist. I'm working with the plants. And then I also have very witchy side of me, a big plant witchy side of me. And I really love helping people connect with the part of them that is that plant witch also, that is looking to work with plants and listen to their wisdom and really understand their magic. And so, yeah, so to me, they're very related, but I do kind of feel that there's this double side of me and this double side of my work. And just really happy to be here with you all.
Awesome. Yeah, Rihanna is like just kind of a known, awesome herbalist in our community. I'm really loving getting to know Rihanna more. And in fact, she's actually worked with my son, who is like in his teenage years and was, dealing with anxiety for the first time in his life, and just giving him some herbal tools to be able to deal with that gracefully. And I've also just recently reached out to Rihanna, like, okay, I was sick for a while, and that impacted my hormones, and it's like I'm ready to like get my libido back, in just kind of feeling more my like sexual juiciness. So I'm so looking forward to working with you, Rihanna, because I'm just like, oh, she's the key. So welcome. And Ariel Oliver, welcome, beautiful. You look gorgeous.
Aloha.
Windswept.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm Ariel Olivier, and I am a facilitator of women's circles and a transformational women's coach. I help women reconnect, recommit, and reclaim their identity, intuition, and intimacy. And I've been doing that for the past 3 years. And I'm also a full-time mom. And that's why I have my little guy with me, screaming in the background.
That's awesome. And you live on the beautiful, where do you live in Hawaii?
I live on Maui.
Gorgeous. Awesome. I love that you're here with your kid. That's awesome. I'm a mom. Rihanna's a mom, and yeah. I love the mom eyes. That's awesome. This is like the most entertaining thing ever. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Oh, mom mode. All right, cool. So we're gonna go a little bit deeper into tattoo stories, and let's go ahead and just kind of go in the same order. So Ariel, just anything you want to say, any context you want to give. Yeah, we'd just love for you to just kind of take us down the rabbit hole with you.
Totally. So I have one tattoo, and it's that tattoo that you have a picture of, and it's on my back. And the story behind it is, I was in this course in college called Philosophy of Feminism and the Body. And it was a super small class of only maybe 4 women. And we were reading this one article inviting us to explore like things that we have agreed to about what is okay and not okay in our lives based upon our cultural upbringing or family upbringing, but just starting to have us question why we decide what is right and wrong, and if it's actually what we believe or if it's just what we've been told. And that actually brought up a lot of investigation for me around tattoos, because I'm Jewish, and one of the big things about tattoos as a Jewish person is that if you have a tattoo, you're not allowed to be buried in a Jewish cemetery, as a way to honor those who were tattooed during the Holocaust. And it was always just kind of this assumption like, oh, I'll never do that. I can't do that. And this inquiry arose for me around, well, the only way that I would actually get a tattoo on my body, because like a lot of it because of the sacredness of not doing it as a Jew, is like the question of what would I want to put on my body that I know would be significant to me for the rest of my life, and something that would hold deep meaning to me that goes deeper than, oh, I shouldn't do this because it's not honoring my heritage. So I really started to explore that, and I've always been really interested in symbolism. So I started to just do some drawings around what meaning could I put on my body that would be there forever. And I wound up drawing 2 symbols. And the first was a lotus flower. And the second was spiral, as you can see right there. And I started to do some research into the symbolism of these 2 symbols because I've been drawn to them so much. And the thing about a spiral is that it's continuous. Like you can continue to evolve around this one point in your life, but it's like each time it's like another evolution on the spiral of who you are. So the thing about the spiral is acknowledging that everything that happens in our lives is significant and builds upon each other. And we continue to have like these rich experiences that allow us to learn more and more about who we are as human beings. And then the lotus flower, what's cool about the lotus flower and the symbolism behind it is that it's this beautiful, elegant flower. But in order for the flower to bloom, it needs to emerge through a lot of muck. It needs to emerge through like literally this thick, caked mud. So not only is it a beautiful flower, but it requires a lot of resilience to push through these things that allows it to bloom. And to me, it was like this beautiful combined message of like, we're these beautiful beings who need to be courageous to push through the challenges that we're faced in our lives. And it's these challenges that kind of create the continuity of who we are. And that's just like, it still sticks with me, just that the challenges are that which make us beautiful. And the significance of having it on my back, one, because I knew that that wouldn't get wrinkly for however old I grow. But it was also this feeling of knowing that this symbolism always exists, even when I can't see it. So that's my story of my tattoo. And I'm getting to a place where I'm actually about to put a new one on my body. I'm thinking right around where you would call the tramp stamp. I hate that term, but I'm seeing how there's going to be a new evolution to the tattoo.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Gorgeous, gorgeous. I want to open it up to Ariel or Rihanna if you have any questions for Ariel or any words of appreciation, anything, any reflections. We'll take a moment just to open up conversation a little bit.
Well, I'm just like dying about the synchronicity right now, because I had no idea you had that tattoo on your back, Ariel, and I also have a lotus with a spiral root on my back. And so I'm just like, whoa, this is so amazing to me. And I just absolutely resonate with what you're saying about, this lotus that is emerging from the mud and from the muck and is such a profound spiritual teacher everywhere it grows. It's considered to be a really sacred plant, both spiritually and for its medicine that it brings. And, for me, just such a sign of renewal and reclaiming and regeneration is profound. And like I said, I'm just dying about the synchronicity. It's so amazing to me.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's gorgeous. You'll have to listen to, it looks like Ariel is about to say something. I'll say this one thing. You'll have to listen to May Vu's interview that I did about her tattoo, because she has a tramp stamp. And she was, I actually don't know if she said this in the interview or before, but she was talking about kind of like reclaiming the tramp stamp. She's like, yeah, like, why wouldn't I want to have a tattoo that like somebody would see when they're like doing me from behind? She's like, that sounds awesome.
It's pretty sexy.
She's like, I can't see it, but they can. Ariel, did you have something you wanted to say?
I just wanted to say something about the spiral and the acknowledgement that you made around it being the continuation and just our constant evolution. And that felt really profound to me. And one of the tattoos that I plan to get next is a symbol with a circle and like the Trinity symbol for the Celtic lineage. So with the spiral, yeah. I love the colors of your tattoo too. It's my favorite, blue and purple.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ariel, for sharing. I want to move on to the stories of one of the other women, but if you think of anything else, feel free to hop in and we'll keep the dialogue going. Yeah, thank you. Rihanna, Miss Rihanna, I'd love to hear your journey. You've got lots of tattoos, so I'm excited to hear where we go.
Yeah, well, I mean, in a way, I only have 2 tattoos so far, but in a way not, because one of my tattoos is this, which is like a sleeve, so it's pretty big. When I got my first tattoo, my spiral lotus, I thought that was it. That was just the tattoo for me, and that's all I wanted or needed. And that vision for that tattoo came out of a really profound meditation that I had, where I saw myself as this kind of in the essence as this white lotus coming up from the muck, and being renewed with all of these shots of blue electricity in my lotus. And I knew exactly, what I wanted to do and where, and there was so much synchronicity around it. I remember I went to go talk to my tattoo artist about what I wanted, and I hadn't told him anything about it yet. He was someone that I knew from my spiritual community, and he said, well, let's not talk here in the shop. It's kind of blah here. Let's go down the street to the cafe because I have an art show there. And at the art show, because I'm having an art show there, I can get free coffee. And I was like, oh, great. So we went down there, and I looked at on the wall was this huge lotus with a spiral root, which is exactly what I had wanted. And he had painted it months and months and months ago. So I really felt this, you know, kind of yes from the universe in so many different ways. And at the same time, it's really ironic because my tattoo artist friend was a very busy man. And in between the time that I had the consultation with him and the time that my first appointment was actually quite a while. It was like 4 months. And my best friend was there watching me get tattooed because it's also on my back and I can't really see it. And she said that she was sitting there looking at it and thinking, gosh, when is he going to start doing the white? And what had happened was he had actually forgotten. And so now when you see I'll show you guys, send you guys a picture, but my tattoo is entirely blue in the back. There's no white at all in the lotus. And it was astonishing to me that had happened. And I had this whole kind of period of intensity and not grief exactly, but anxiety really about like, oh my God, there's a mistake on my back, you know? And, you know, after some time of that, I really realized that it wasn't a mistake. It was just like this shifting that had happened from when I originally had the vision, which was when I was pretty young, to now, you know, who I am now, and really seeing the kind of blue of that lotus, right? It's like right behind my throat chakra. So it just makes a lot of sense that there's this vibrant blue flower there. And similarly, when I got this tattoo or started, this isn't actually done yet. This is still a couple months away from being finished. I had spent some time, you know, really kind of dying over this one tattoo artist. I was on her wait list for like 2 years before she would see me. Really, really super excited to get this piece done. And it's really special to me. It has live oak, which looks a lot like holly, and tan oak, which is our California native oak, which is very, very, very at risk right now. And there's also a bunch of California wild rose and this beautiful owl. And so I had the idea for quite a long time, and there was a lot of significance to me about the different pieces of the tattoo. But when I actually got it done, I hated it. Like, it's to the point where I went and talked to a laser person about possibly removing it. I had such a strong reaction to the owl, and it was because I suddenly was being called the girl with the owl tattoo, and I didn't realize how this part of me, which was so much my essence, this owl part of me, this priestess part of me, this one who goes between the worlds, was suddenly going to be on display for every barista and grocery store clerk and guy on the bus and, you know, whoever, and, you know, my kids' preschool teachers, everybody suddenly was going to see this part of me that before this moment I had gotten to really select who could see, the priestess or the witch inside of me, the owl. And it was terrifying to me at first. And, you know, as luck would have it, I actually ended up getting pregnant before I could do anything about whether or not I was going to remove it or, you know, even get a cover up or something. And during the pregnancy process, I really made peace with the owl and really became comfortable with it. And so that when it was time to start working on my tattoo again, it felt right. But I wanted to name that because I think that when we think about getting tattoos, especially ones of spiritual significance, I think we often think that the process is going to be maybe painful physically, but kind of this experience of bliss where suddenly, like, you know, I've reclaimed this part of my body and it feels wonderful and look at my amazing tattoo. But, you know, for me, both times I've gotten tattoos, there's been this bump, this little bit of difficulty. And I think that going through that process and going through the shadow work involved in it has been some of the most profound work for me in the tattooing process. So yeah, and they're, you know, other than the owl, it's all plants. As an herbalist, I just want plants all over my body. And I even though this one's not even done, I'm already got a couple more planned. So I'm into it. Although I also want to say, just for the record, I hate pain. I'm not one of those people who's like, yeah, I get high and euphoric off the pain. Like, that's not true for me, but it's been a powerful experience. So don't let that deter you if you're thinking about it.
Thank you so much. I love that you spoke to the experience of getting a tattoo twice, the one on your back because of the white missing, and the owl just because it sounded like it was like kind of tender, vulnerable. And I can relate with that experience of getting a tattoo and being like, that is not what I asked for. Like, what? And then coming into acceptance. So it's intense because it's this permanent thing on your body. And man, so I really appreciate that you spoke to that. And it's almost like there was this piece of me that didn't realize until right now that that happens to other people. Like, it was almost like, no, when you get a tattoo, you like immediately love it and it resonates and it's in alignment, but clearly that's not true, like almost like a juvenile belief. And as you were sharing, I'm like, yeah, I'm sure like probably most people have some version of that for whatever reason. So it almost like just kind of like just hearing your story, like, oh, that's kind of part of the process, the intensity of getting a tattoo. So thank you for sharing that, and also the symbology and the plants and sharing about the oak. And I just love all of the layers of that. I also wanted to open up to Ariel and Ariel to ask any questions or reflect anything that wants to be reflected.
I just want to speak to the like the power of what you were speaking about around there's like these things were placed upon your body that are permanent, and they're not the way you saw that it was going to happen initially. And what you described is just this beautiful alchemy of being able to find like the perfection and the divinity in exactly what happens. And it's like it's like in any moment we can be a victim of our circumstances, or we can like find empowerment through the story that we tell about it. And that's just like, I mean, that's a key element of the coaching work that I do, and the way you were able to embrace that in such a visible, like it is stamped on my body way, and kind of claim the story of it is powerful. And I really appreciate you sharing that.
Similar to what Jessica said, I just really appreciate you sharing the story of how first you weren't happy with your tattoo and you had to make peace. And I think the biggest part was the owl one, when you were saying it's a part of becoming visible and your true essence to others, and really like allow yourself to be seen in that, and not trying to like go back and hide and erase it. And so the pregnancy, and how it was such a blessing for that 9 months of gestation to like really sink into that priestess witch self with your owl. So thank you for allowing yourself to be seen in your magic with that.
Gorgeous. Awesome. Love all the layers of all these. All right, Rihanna, thank you so much. I'd love to dive on over to Ariel. And let's hear your story, your journey.
Well, I have several tattoos. I think the first one I ever got it's going to be a cover-up. I still haven't finished it. But it's part of the big piece on my shoulder and my neck, which is just a symbology for my own process. So I have the lioness of God with the little lion cub face and her angel wings, because that's what my name means. So to me, that's just a representation of myself. And although I can't see it, like I always just feel it behind me on my neck. And being a Taurus, connected to my throat chakra, so like just helps remind me to speak in my power and my voice, and let out my roar if I need to. Being a lion. And I have the woman face on my back, who, when I initially saw this piece, it's the face and the moon, and my tattoo artist had this. I didn't go in there for this, but he had this sketch, and I saw it, and something within me just felt so drawn to it, like the face and the moon and everything. And I was like, I want that. I don't know why. I don't even know who this woman's face is. I don't know. And at first I like had all these thoughts like, are people gonna think I'm lesbian because I have some woman's tattoo face on my shoulder tattooed on me? And I had to kind of like process through that at first and just trust my intuition and getting it. And so I did. And then from there it's evolved into the phoenix rising above her and then the night sky. And the phoenix is symbolic for me. I got that tattoo after a really horrible car accident I was in, where it was a near-death experience. And so it's just a reminder to me to always rise above all my circumstances. And then below the moon, flying down into my ribs, is a hummingbird, and that is one of my spirit animals. So it's kind of like the darkness meets the light. So it's like I had to go through all that darkness, and then through that I'm flying into the light, and there's going to be flowers and a sun. So it's just a merging of the two worlds that I've been engaged in.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I'm just seeing the phoenix. I thought the wings below were the phoenix, but you said that's the hummingbird, and now I'm seeing in the sky. That is so cool.
Yeah, the phoenix is in the sky, and then I couldn't get the hummingbird in the picture, but she's there flying down into my ribs. And then I have 2 more tattoos on my arms. So this one says, if I surround myself with positive, I'll gain prosperity. And then I have this one for the car accident I was into. It says, don't break me, make me stronger. And then conquer and survive. And then I have this one on my wrist. It's a heart and a peace sign. It says, believe, imagine, love, and peace. So they're just constant reminders to me.
Wow.
And, I can relate to what Rihanna said, because when I got my hummingbird, it did not turn out how I wanted it to, and I didn't think it was pretty, and I still kind of don't, and I've just been having to sit with it for the past like 3 years, because I got pregnant too, and I haven't done anything with it, and just had to let go, surrender into it, and know that it is what it was meant to be. So yeah. But one thing I wanted to touch on is that for me, the process of getting my tattoos, like when I got my neck one and I got my shoulder ones, it was all very emotional times for me. And I felt in my process, like feeling that physical pain made it easier for me to go through the emotional pain for some reason. Like it took my mind off of it, and it just helped remind me how strong I am and resilient I am, feeling that pain and allowing myself to feel it, and then seeing the beauty that came from it and this permanence of this beautiful artwork. And it's just so symbolic to the process that I've been through. So yeah.
Gorgeous, gorgeous. I love that you have so many that follow these different like pivotal moments and experiences in your life. It's like your body is your storybook. That's gorgeous.
Yeah, that was the intention. Thank you.
Well, I want to take a moment to open it up to Ariel and Rihanna for any questions or reflections.
I just really appreciate the last comment you made around there's something about the physical pain that allowed you to access the emotional pain. And I definitely resonate with that. It's funny. That's actually why I enjoy playing with like BDSM and being tied up with people, like with men that I trust, and playing around with different types of physical pain when I know it's in a safe, contained area, because it actually gives me something physical to act like. I feel like we can get so caught up in feeling like we're being controlled by invisible forces, that to actually have the experience of feeling real physical pain in a way that we know is safe, gives us access to these deeper, richer emotions. So I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and I wanted to name something that I heard you say when you were describing the different tattoos on your body. What I was thinking of is, it kind of reminds me, it's almost like this map of your life in some ways, you know, like a physical map upon your, and that's how I've always thought about my tattoos also. You know, when people have said things to me, especially kind of people who don't have tattoos or think it's strange or whatever, like, well, what if you regret that tattoo? Or what if you don't feel that way at another time, you know? Um, and for me, it's never, even though they're permanent, it's never been about permanence as like, as if my entity was fixed. You know, it's always been to really see it as this map or landscape of my inner experience. And often things that I'm claiming, and I think it sounds like what you're saying too, like what you're claiming around being this phoenix who's rising up, right? And all of these things. I think it's a powerful way of really owning our lives and owning our stories and owning, you know, even like when I think about like, often when we think about our lives, we don't think about them as maps. We think about them as like timelines almost, you know, like what are the little marks that you would name on your timeline for your life as these like pivotal moments or these turning moments or these pieces, right? Or chapter headings. And I don't like that as much, the line thing, like the here I am and there's a future and then the behind me is the past or whatever. Like I really like to think about it more as something that's dimensional, right? And when you were talking about it, I was thinking about that dimensionality of having a map on your body of your life and what you're claiming for yourself.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I had thought about that too, Rihanna, just the linear, when you were sharing actually, just like, oh yeah, we often think of our lives as this linear thing, but I love that you brought in this kind of multi-dimensional map piece. That's gorgeous and so beautifully represented on you and Ariel's bodies with these different tattoos, different times of your life. Thank you, thank you. I wanted to just, we're going to complete here in a moment, but just in a, a word or a sentence from each of you for women who might be watching this, whether they have tattoos or not, or they're kind of watching this maybe because they're, wanting to dive into this world, but just any final thought or prayer or intention or affirmation, just a word or a phrase that you just feel like wants to come through right now. So, Ariel.
The initial thing that came through was radical approval and permission for who you are and what you want.
Gorgeous. Thank you. Rihanna?
I think what I'm holding in my heart as we complete here is really this owning of our bodies, really, really owning our bodies and reclaiming our bodies outside of conventional standards of what is acceptable or beautiful or, just being a certain way as the shoulds, right? And really naming for ourselves what that is, really naming for ourselves what beauty is, and naming for ourselves what feels important, maybe even beyond beauty or beyond appearances. For me, tattoos are that. They go beyond just what you see on the skin. So I am heartened by the idea of women of all and people of all shapes and sizes and colors and everything else, reclaiming our bodies and owning our beauty in all of its dimensions.
Gorgeous. Thank you. And Ariel, any final thought?
What's come to me is just self-acceptance and self-expression, just giving ourselves permission to be who we fully are and allow ourselves to be seen in that. Yeah.
And mine is just a dovetail on something that Rihanna was sharing, was just that there, I think for me, getting my tattoos has been like a deepening of really experiencing that there is no such thing as permanence, that permanence and impermanence are just these like constructs anyway, and how that realization has been important to me outside of the world of tattoos, and just remembering that piece. So, Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I feel lifted up by your wisdom and your stories. And I will be sharing in a future video my own story about my tattoo, in this case, my cranial tattoo. But I wanted to thank you all so much for taking the time to be here and grace us with your presence. And thank you so much, women who are watching this. And I want to encourage you, as you lean into connect with Ariel and Rihanna and Ariel, to reach out and connect with them. We've kind of created these ways for you to stay connected to them. So please do, and stay in the sisterhood, stay in connection, stay in the conversation. So many, many blessings. Thank you.
Thank you.